Discover the heartwarming moment when a daughter-in-law's incredible demand led to an unexpected connection. The wind howled through the small Midwestern town, rustling the dried orange leaves piled on the sidewalk. Inside the cozy little Haven diner, Sarah wiped down a table, her mind racing as her heart burned with anxiety. She had always known that life was tough, but this was something else. The news of Ruth's sudden illness felt like a gut punch. Her mother-in-law, fierce, proud, and stubborn, suddenly lay in a hospital bed, her independence stripped away. It was time for Sarah to step up, but oh, the weight of that responsibility felt like a ton of bricks on her chest. Through whispered conversations and passing glances, the diner buzzed with little snippets of small-town life and the familiar fabric of community values. Moments like these, shared over steaming cups of coffee and pies fresh from the oven, were what made Sarah's heart swell with pride. Yet, how would she navigate these turbulent waters with Ruth? Their relationship had never been a picture-perfect one, marked by persistent misunderstandings and unspoken grievances. Asking unyielding Ruth to move in and accept help felt like an act of rebellion. As Sarah glanced out the window, watching the world go by, she envisioned a life where both women could find comfort, healing, and even camaraderie. Could this be the moment that would bring them closer? A fiery determination rose within her. She had to make the plea. For her children. For Ruth. For the possibility of a brighter future. That evening, she visited Ruth in the hospital. The fluorescent lights danced off the sterile white walls, creating a cold atmosphere. The beeping machines filled the silence with a monotonous rhythm. "Ruth," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I think it's time you move in with us just until you feel better. I can't let you go through this alone." Ruth's eyes narrowed, her old defenses instantly firing up. "I am perfectly fine taking care of myself," she shot back, bitterness lacing her words. Sarah felt a pang of hurt but pressed on. The emotional turmoil between them simmered, raw and palpable. "Please," Sarah urged. "You're not fine. I know that." A moment of silence hung in the air, heavy with years of unresolved tension. The truth was, the request was loaded, representing both vulnerability and an invitation for connection, yet it was met with a wall of pride and past judgments. As they stood there grappling with emotions, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if she was opening Pandora's box. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks, and as the weather shifted with the changing seasons, so did their relationship, slowly, painfully, and sometimes with 2 steps forward and 1 step back. When the annual town fair came around, hope fluttered in the air, tempting Sarah to seize the moment. Standing on that makeshift stage, she felt charged with a newfound strength. Ruth and women like her have shaped this community. They've given so much, Sarah cried out, her voice steady despite the nervousness fluttering in her stomach. The audience hushed, the weight of her words sinking in. Just as she reached for Ruth's hand in a gesture of unity, a sudden setback loomed on the horizon. Would she be forced to choose between her loyalty to Ruth and the well-being of her own children? As the tension thickened, Sarah and Ruth stood at the precipice of transformation. Will love triumph over pride? Can the bonds of family withstand all that life demands? Connection beyond words. The sun rose on a new day, casting a warm glow over the town as the sounds of laughter and chatter filled the air. The annual town fair was in full swing, and Sarah felt a mixture of excitement and dread. She had always looked forward to this day, but now, it loomed over her like a specter. The fair was a place of joy and celebration, yet it also served as a reminder of the challenges she faced with Ruth, challenges that were like heavy weights strung around her heart. Sarah had spent hours preparing her kids for the fair, ensuring they looked their best, each in their carefully chosen outfits. Buying the children their favorite cotton candy was something she could control, but the thought of navigating the fair with Ruth by her side still felt daunting. The creatures of pride and resentment that had built their fortress between them felt alive and ready to attack. As they strolled through the fairgrounds, Sarah could sense Ruth simmering with unexpressed thoughts. The older woman had agreed to join them but remained stoic, her rigid posture signaling her unwillingness to embrace the moment fully. "It's just a stupid fair," Ruth mumbled, her eyes scanning the crowds. Sarah's heart sank at the bitterness. What did Ruth see in all of this? Clowns and children, families laughing and holding hands? Wasn't this everything Ruth had once enjoyed? Gathering courage, Sarah turned to her mother-in-law. "It's not stupid, Ruth. It was designed for people to be together. Look at the happiness around us. Wouldn't it be nice to just enjoy it?" "In case you hadn't noticed," Ruth shot back, her voice full of venom, "not everyone finds joy in nonsense." The words stung, but Sarah pressed forward. "I know it's hard. But this is such a precious time. Just let yourself feel it." Ruth stared into the distance, and for a moment, it seemed as if a flicker of understanding had illuminated her features. But just as quickly, her hardened expression returned. Frustration twisted in Sarah's gut. Would any of this ever change? Suddenly, a loud burst of laughter from kids racing by caught Ruth's attention, and Sarah held her breath, hoping it sparked something. To her relief, Ruth's lips quirked just slightly, and Sarah took that small victory to propel her forward. "See? They're having fun. Why can't we?" Before Ruth could reply, a familiar face called out from the crowd. It was Betty, an old friend of Ruth's. "Ruth. Is that you? I haven't seen you in ages." The tension crackled in the air as Ruth's defensive walls began to crumble. "Betty? Oh my. It has been a long time." The joy in Ruth's voice astonished Sarah. As Betty enveloped Ruth in a warm embrace, Sarah found herself both relieved and confused, wondering if this would be the turning point they desperately needed. As the two women chatted, Sarah observed closely, hoping a seed of connection was taking root. Watching Ruth's expression soften, a flicker of hope ignited in her heart. Just as she felt the weight of possibility lift, Ruth caught Sarah's eye and said, "Maybe this isn't as stupid as I thought." Sarah beamed at Ruth, ready to engage in this newfound lightness. However, deep down, she knew that navigating this emotional landscape was bound to be jagged. But as laughter echoed around them, one thought circled her mind. Could they truly find common ground amid the pride and hurt? The tug of uncertainty warned her that their journey was far from over. Beneath the surface, unasked questions simmered. Could moments like this transform into lasting change? As they embraced the warmth of the fair, Sarah felt a swell of determination. Perhaps this was the best chance they had. Yet, lingering doubts whispered, could this one day mark a genuine shift in their relationship, or just a brief respite before the storm? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting shadows over the fair, the air crackled with possibilities. Would their fragile threads of understanding hold, or would the weight of the past drag them back into silence? The fair continued to buzz with life, the laughter of children mingling with the sweet scent of popcorn and fried dough. As Sarah watched Ruth reconnect with Betty, a tentative hope unfurled within her. The barriers that had seemed so unbreakable began to feel a little less daunting. Perhaps today's visit to the fair could weave a new narrative for their fractured relationship. "Can you believe how much the town has changed?" Betty asked, her eyes twinkling with nostalgia. Ruth nodded, her serious face momentarily softening. Sarah felt a surge of appreciation. She leaned closer, wanting to absorb every moment of this unexpected warmth. They wandered past brightly colored tents, the cheerful sounds of a carousel ringing in the air. Ruth, seemingly caught in the nostalgia of shared memories with Betty, hardly noticed when Sarah paused by a game booth, the bright prize stuffed animals drawing her kids like bees to honey. "Mom, can we play?" Lily tugged at her hand, her eyes sparkling. "Of course." "One game each," Sarah replied, her voice filled with enthusiasm. She felt buoyed by the shared moment of laughter and anticipation. Ruth's gaze, however, fell back to the booth, her lips pressed together tightly. Sarah's excitement faltered for a moment. Would this turn sour too? "Are you going to play, Ruth?" Sarah asked, trying to bridge the gap. She could sense an opportunity for Ruth to join them, to break free from the weight of her own past. Me? Play with children? Ruth scoffed, the familiar edge creeping back into her tone. I have no interest in competing for a toy. Not about competing, Sarah pushed gently. It's about the fun, the moment of being together. But Ruth merely crossed her arms, looking anywhere but at the game. Just as Sarah's heart began to sink, she heard Betty's voice break through the tension. Oh, but Ruth, you could win something for Lily. It could be fun to pick a prize together. That's right. Sarah echoed, leaning into Betty's encouragement. What do you say, Ruth? Let us make a memory, all of us. For a moment, Ruth hesitated. Her eyes flickered toward Lily, who was excitedly bouncing on her toes. As Sarah held her breath, a glimpse of vulnerability flashed across Ruth's face. It was quickly replaced by her usual resolve. Really, it's just a toy, she muttered, almost to herself. Betty tapped Ruth's shoulder gently. Life is full of little joys, isn't it? Sometimes, it takes a toy to brighten our day. Maybe just one round, then Ruth finally conceded, though her tone lacked promise. The words felt monumental to Sarah, small yet charged. They moved toward the game booth, where a jovial attendant greeted them with a wide grin, the familiar buzz of excitement enveloping them. As they settled in for their turn, Sarah felt her heart pound with anticipation, not just for the game, but for Ruth's willingness to join in just a little. The past still lingered in the shadows, yet here was a hint of possibility shimmering in the air. The game commenced, and laughter erupted when Ruth, surprisingly agile, managed to toss the balls with unexpected gusto. She smiled a real smile when one landed in the scoring area. See? Sarah beamed at Ruth, her heart swelling. You did great. We're celebrating that. As they selected a stuffed animal together, something shifted between them. It was as if the walls began to crack, letting light flow through. Sarah marveled at the warmth of shared laughter, capturing this fleeting moment on her phone, desperately wanting to remember it forever, but amid the joy, a twinge of anxiety lingered. Was this the turning point they needed, or simply a mirage in the desert of their strained relationship? Just as they turned to leave the booth, the closing notes of a familiar song filled the air. Oh, I love this one! Lily exclaimed, pulling on her mother and Ruth's hands. The call of the dance floor beckoned, with a glance between them searching, questioning. Sarah and Ruth stepped onto the makeshift dance floor. Could this moment of joy pave the path for a deeper connection? Or would it dissolve the second the music stopped? As the rhythm picked up, and laughter continued to soar around them, both Sarah and Ruth held their breaths, uncertain of what tomorrow would hold for their fragile bond. Could this day bring transformation, or would it be swallowed by pride once again? The infectious beat of the music filled the air, wrapping around Sarah and Ruth like a warm hug. Lily twirled and giggled, pulling her mother and grandmother into the dance with her. Sarah watched Ruth's face, searching for signs of discomfort, but instead, she saw something remarkable. Ruth was swaying, a tentative smile forming at the corners of her mouth. See? This isn't so bad. Sarah called over the lively chorus, heart racing with hope. Ruth's expression softened as she glanced at Lily's gleeful dance moves. I suppose it is fun, she admitted, her voice barely rising above the music. Just as the song reached a crescendo, Ruth took a small step forward, moving not just to the beat but toward her granddaughter, who danced with abandon. For a moment, it felt as if time had paused, leaving only this precious trio in the world, lost in joy, laughter, and the sweet essence of connection. Sarah felt a swell of gratitude wash over her. Was this the moment where their relationship could start to heal? She watched as Ruth, usually so guarded, began to loosen up, her body swaying with the rhythm, feeling the music flow through her. But just as Sarah dared to breathe that hope into existence, a flash of something dimmed in Ruth's eyes. The moment of joy faded at the edges as memories of the past surfaced, moments filled with regret, anger, and longing. Sarah noticed the stiffening of her shoulders as she caught herself slipping back into that familiar mask of distance. Ruth? Sarah felt the urgency build inside her. You're here now. Why not enjoy every second? Not everyone has the luxury to forget, Ruth cut in sharply, her breath hitching as she turned away, the moment slipping from her grasp. Sarah's heart sank. A pit of hurt opened in her stomach, the remnants of hope crashing down. But Lily, ever perceptive, spun toward her grandmother, eyes wide. We can dance all together. Come on, Grandma. Let us just do something else, Lily, Ruth replied, a tremor in her voice. Why not dance with us just a little longer? It's fun. Lily persisted, her childlike excitement undeterred. Ruth's face twisted in conflict, torn between the genuine yearning to connect and the heavy burden of her past. In that split second, Sarah saw the struggle in her mother-in-law's eyes, the push and pull between the joy of the present and the sorrow of what had been. Please, Grandma. Lily's plea cut through the air, sweet and innocent. The music shifted into a slower tempo, inviting intimacy, and Sarah stepped closer to Ruth, hoping to reassure her. You don't have to let go of the past entirely, Ruth. But we can take a step forward together. Just one step. Ruth looked at Sarah, then back to Lily. The girl's grin radiated pure hope, and as much as Ruth tried to remain stoic, her heart cracked just a little. All right, she finally conceded, her voice barely above a whisper. Lily cheered and quickly wrapped her arms around Ruth's waist before scooting closer to Sarah, creating an unbreakable connection. Sarah can't help but beam at the two of them. A soft warmth unfurled within her. Could this be the start of something beautiful? As they swayed slowly, Sarah took a deep breath. There was still so much unspoken between them, so many layers of hurt and healing to navigate. Would Ruth allow herself to trust them? Before she could ponder further, a tap on her shoulder made her jump. It was Betty, a broad smile on her face and mischief in her eyes. Their essay pie eating contest starting. What do you say to some friendly competition? Just like old times? Betty. Ruth chided lightly, but a hint of laughter escaped her lips. A pie eating contest? Why not? Let us make some memories, shall we? Betty winked, the invitation too tempting to resist, even for Ruth. Sarah exchanged a glance with Ruth, and a spark ignited in both of their gazes. What do you think, Ruth? Ready for round two? The thrill of potential hung in the air. Would Ruth embrace this next challenge? As Sarah reached for her mother-in-law's hand, both of them teetered on the edge of possibility. Would they step toward healing, or would this moment fade as so many before it? And as the joyful clamor of the fair called them near, uncertainty loomed, filled with what could be. With a smile barely hiding her nerves, Sarah clasped Ruth's hand, feeling the warmth of their connection. A sense of adventure flickered in her chest, urging them on. Come on, Mom. No backing down now. She teased, tugging gently. Ruth eyed the throng of excited participants gathering around the pie-eating table, her expression anything but enthusiastic. Yet, under the layers of her apprehension, Sarah sensed a glimmer of something alive, curiosity, perhaps. It was a sunny day, the laughter and chatter bubbling up around them, and Lily was practically bouncing on the balls of her feet. All right, I'll try as long as I don't have to wear a silly hat, Ruth replied, her lips quirking just a bit. Sarah couldn't help but notice how Ruth's willingness to participate felt like a leap, one she hadn't seen in a long while. They made their way to the makeshift table covered with colorful, glistening pies. The smell of baked fruit mingled with whipped cream hung in the air, thick and sweet. Lily was practically vibrating with excitement, ready to dive into the thrill of competition. As the announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeaker, counting down to start, Sarah saw Ruth shifting nervously. Just remember, it's all in good fun, Sarah whispered, giving her a reassuring pat on the back. The countdown ended, and all at once, the contestants lunged forward, faces entering their chosen pies with determined abandon. Sarah laughed as Lily dove headfirst into her blueberry pie, and she felt her heart soar a little when she saw Ruth closing her eyes and getting into it. It was messy and chaotic. Whipped cream splashed everywhere, covering little hands and faces, but the raw joy radiating from Lily and Ruth was palpable. Sarah's laughter echoed in time with the cheers around them, a chorus of happiness sweeping through the fair. Can't stop now, can we? Ruth mumbled, a full mouth of pie causing everyone to burst into fits of laughter. The sound felt musical to Sarah, an intoxicating blend of joy and spontaneity. For the first time in ages, Ruth looked alive. Her eyes sparkled, and even the way she leaned into the mess showed a sense of abandonment she'd often held back. "Look, Grandma. You're winning." Lily giggled, her face covered in sticky blueberry sauce, a grin stretching wide across her face. Just as Sarah's heart filled with warmth at the sight, she suddenly realized Ruth was no longer a spectator in her own life. An unexpected thrill raced through Sarah. Could they be rewriting old patterns right here in the middle of this pie-eating frenzy? But before she could let herself fully embrace the moment, she caught a glimpse of a familiar face on the fringes of the crowd, watching with a mix of surprise and something darker. It was Matthew, Ruth's son, Sarah's husband. His eyes narrowed as he took in the scene, a thundercloud of emotions brewing in his expression. "Matthew!" Sarah called out, but he quickly turned away, moving through the crowd like a ghost. Her heart plummeted. She didn't want their moment of joy interrupted by the past, especially not by him. Ruth, too, froze mid-bite, her smile faltering as her gaze followed Sarah's. "Who is that?" Ruth whispered, the earlier humor draining from her face. Just someone I expected to see," Sarah said, her voice tight. "But right now, it's about us. Let us keep going." The moment hung heavy between them. The laughter of the fair faded into a background noise as the weight of unspoken tension settled in. Could they really broaden the circle of love and trust right here? Or was something significant about to slip away? Ruth hesitated, then smiled more brightly. "Let us win this." But as Sarah turned back to the contest, uncertainty jangled in her veins. What if they were still haunted by ghosts of the past, and Matthew's presence was just the beginning? As laughter erupted around them once more, Sarah caught Ruth's eye. Dare they let the past stay buried, or would it rise to complicate their newfound connection? The contest roared back to life, and the vibrant energy surrounded them again. Sarah shook off the heaviness, determined not to let Matthew's presence dim the spark they had ignited. With Ruth now fully engaged in the competition, they could turn this messy pie-eating contest into a celebration rather than a burden. Ruth dove back into the pie, letting out soft giggles between bites, filling the air with her newfound joy. Sarah felt her heart swell watching her mother-in-law. Every laugh, every bite, felt like a bridge crossing over their past misunderstandings. It was fiercely exciting. Yet, Sarah felt a tug in her gut. They had faced challenges before, but was this really the turning point? "Look at you, Mom. You're being a champ," Sarah shouted, her voice layered with love. Ruth leaned back for a moment, wiping her mouth with her arm, a look of pure determination etched across her face. "I've never seen you so alive." Ruth shot back playfully, and for a brief moment, it felt like they had stepped past the shadows that had long haunted their relationship. The two laughed, completely wrapped up in the moment, impervious to the world around them, but as they paused to catch their breath, Sarah felt her own joy weaken with an unfamiliar weight hanging over her. Where was Matthew? What was he thinking? She couldn't shake the image of his narrowed eyes from her mind. How could they move forward when there was a storm brewing just outside their laughter? "Mom, this is great. We need to do this more often," Sarah called out, trying to pull the joy back. "Can you believe how fun this is?" "Yes. I should be joined in on these craziness a long time ago." Ruth's eyes brightened again, and Sarah knew that deep down, they both wanted this connection. But impatience brewed just beneath Sarah's excitement. What if they could learn to be free from the past? What if they could actually build something vibrant and real despite the shadows lurking behind them? "Let us get another round," Sarah suggested. "We can win this thing together." Just as they were about to return to the fray, a voice interrupted from behind. "Really? More pie eating, Ruth?" It was Matthew, his tone laced with sarcasm. Ruth turned sharply, her mask of joy slipping as she faced him. "Matthew, we were just having fun, I can see that," he replied tersely, crossing his arms. "But is this really how you want to spend your time? Drowning yourself in pie?" The levity that had filled the moment vanished like a popped balloon, replaced by the heavy tension of unresolved issues. Sarah felt her stomach clench at the confrontation. The playful energy vanished, leaving an uncomfortable silence. "Wait, you don't understand what we're doing here," Sarah said, anger bursting out. "This is about more than pie. This is about finding joy again, together." Matthew's eyes darted between the two women, a battle of faces playing out in silence. Sarah could feel the air thicken with tension as Ruth's expression turned from disbelief to resignation. "What's wrong with pie?" Ruth defended, her voice shaking slightly. "Why can't we have moments like this?" For a moment, Sarah sensed the fight in her mother-in-law, and it gave her hope. But as Matthew's glare sliced through their moment, doubt crept in. "Maybe you should spend more time worrying about your responsibilities, Ruth, instead of playing in dessert," Matthew finally said, his voice colder than it had ever been. Ruth flinched, and Sarah's heart raced. The happiness they had created felt fragile now, teetering on the edge of collapse. Would this confrontation push them apart or pull them together? As Matthew turned away, leaving tension like smoke in the air, Sarah could feel Ruth's heartache radiating beside her. They had just woven a thread of connection, yet here stood the specter of their discord, ready to unravel it. "What now?" Sarah whispered, her heart heavy. They had fought so hard to reach this place. Could they protect it? Would they stand together against the storm, or would they let the past take them under? The unsettling silence threatened to swallow them whole, leaving them both questioning whether they'd truly made progress or if the weight of unresolved issues would anchor them back into despair. Sarah glanced at Ruth, searching her mother-in-law's eyes for reassurance, but found only a storm of confusion and hurt. "We can't let him," she began, but the words fell away. What could they possibly do against the expectations and judgments that hung in the air like thick fog? Ruth brushed her hands against her apron, the remnants of pie splattered across it like a tragic badge of honor. "He doesn't understand," she murmured, her voice dipping low. "I thought maybe no." Sarah cut in fiercely, fueled by a surge of protectiveness. "You can't let him pull you back into that darkness. We just started to find our way out. Remember how you felt just minutes ago?" The flicker of a smile returned to Ruth's face, brightening the corners of her mouth just slightly. "I do," she whispered, her eyes suddenly distant like she was traveling back to the laughter. But then she tightened her grip on her apron, burdened by an unseen weight. "Let's make this a team effort. We can still enjoy this contest," Sarah urged, her mind racing for that sparkle of joy they had just reclaimed. "Matthew won't get it, but we can. Just focus on us." Ruth looked hesitant, uncertainty swirling in her eyes. Sarah could see the fear. Someone had been letting it poison their moments for far too long. What if he's right? What if it's just foolishness? "Foolishness can be fun too," Sarah replied, trying to chuckle, but the breathlessness edged into her laughter. "Let us break this pie back open and reclaim our space. It's not his time anymore. It's ours." With a slight nod, Ruth hesitated, but the fire returned in her spirit as she clenched her jaw and whispered, "You're right. Let us do it." They stepped back toward the stands, the chatter of the crowd picking up like a heartbeat, bustling around them again. Sarah and Ruth locked eyes, a silent promise passing between them. Together, the next pie was enormous, dripping with colorful frosting that glistened in the afternoon sun. Sarah grabbed a fork and raised it high, rallying the crowd. "Who's ready to see some epic pie-eating skills?" Cheers erupted from a few nearby admirers, drawn back into their world. Sarah felt a rush of hope. She joined Ruth, wiping her hands on a napkin and leaning in closer. "Just like before. You ready?" Ruth's smile wavered at first, but then she fought back against the doubts and dove in, a new determination flickering in her voice. "Let's knock this out." They both took a bite. Laughter erupted as they navigated through the sweet chaos, pie particles flying everywhere. With each bite, the nearness of Matthew shrank in the background, and the laughter between them felt more like their own heartbeat. But just as their joy began to rise, Sarah spotted Matthew again, standing rigidly at the edge, arms crossed, anger written deep in his features. The joy they had ignited felt fragile against the storm brewing inside him. Would he come back, or drop this bomb again? Look at him, Ruth whispered, her voice edged with worry. He won. Let us win. Or maybe we just need to show him what winning feels like, Sarah said, ignoring the quiver of doubt flaring beneath her skin. If we can laugh together, maybe he won't have the power to break us apart. Ruth's grip on her fork tightened, a newfound resolve beginning to take shape. You're right. This is our moment. We can make him understand. As they took another bite, the contest roared around them, but Sarah's heart raced not just with excitement. Balance was shifting. Would Matthew really see the joy they had fought for? Or would he continue to be a wall between them? With the tension renewed, Sarah's stomach twisted, signaling a new challenge ahead. Could laughter really defy the darkness, or was this moment just a fleeting illusion? The air crackled, and the next clash was imminent. Sarah took another bite, the sweet explosion of flavor igniting a fresh wave of laughter. She felt the warmth of the sun, the joy of the crowd, all of it seemed to melt the icy grip of doubt even if just for an instant. She wanted more than anything to dance freely, to feel grounded and light, just as she had growing up. For a moment, Ruth's laughter echoed around her, harmonizing with the sounds of excitement that filled the air. It was intoxicating, almost blissful, a stark contrast to the heavy presence of Matthew who loomed like an ominous cloud in the distance. Come on. Sarah shouted, nudging Ruth playfully. Let us show them how it's done. Ruth mirrored her enthusiasm, swinging her fork in gleeful, exaggerated motions. They dug into the pie with childlike abandon, letting the frosty goo drip down their chins and splatter onto their clothes. Time lost its meaning as they painted their own canvas of joy, momentarily ignoring the shadows lurking nearby. But as laughter bubbled over, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Matthew's glare pierced through the joy like the sharp edge of a knife, hands clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. Sarah had hoped he would relent, would allow their laughter to pull him into the light, but instead, he appeared more determined than ever to rain on their parade. Sarah, Ruth whispered, her eyes darting between Sarah and Matthew. What if he just won't understand? What if we're just making it worse? No. We can't let him win, Sarah replied fiercely, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. This is about us. About taking back our happiness. You deserve this, Mom. With renewed vigor, they attacked the pie again. Excited laughter bubbled up from their core, yet with every shared smile, Matthew's intensity seemed to grow, a reminder of the struggle that persisted beneath the surface. Look! Sarah exclaimed as she took a giant scoop, her fork nearly toppling over. I think I found the secret ingredient. Ruth leaned closer, intrigued, and in that moment of camaraderie, an old, infectious giggle surfaced, loud enough to draw the attention of a nearby group. That's it. A stranger shouted from the crowd, pointing. You're alive. Keep going. That encouragement sent a thrill through Sarah, and she turned to Ruth, eyes sparkling with mischief. See? We're bringing them in. It's working. But just then, as they prepared for another bite, Matthew strode toward them. Anger seethed under his skin, visible in every muscle. You think this is funny? He spat, his voice booming above the playful chatter. Sarah's heart dropped. The playful atmosphere shattered, leaving only an electric tension hanging in the air. Ruth's smile faltered, the laughter that had felt so liberating now cowered under Matthew's imposing shadow. It's not about being funny, it's about being free, Sarah shot back, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. We won't just back down because you can't understand. This is ours. This is our moment to choose joy. Matthew's face tightened, skepticism tightening around his brows. Joy? You want more of this nonsense? You think this somehow solves anything? Sarah stepped closer, her spirit rising against the storm in his eyes. It solves everything. It gives courage. We aren't just pie slices in your box anymore. We're alive. For a moment, silence enveloped them, electric and charged, while the crowd's chatter faded into mere whispers. Ruth stepped forward, her determined gaze fixed on her son. Matthew, listen. This isn't just a joke. This is about reclaiming our peace. It's what we deserve. Matthew's hard shell began to crack, but just slightly. His eyes glimmered with something unresolved. The tension swelled, an unyielding push and pull between them. Would he open up, let go of his fears, and join the celebration, or would he remain stuck in the shadows of anger? As the contest erupted around them once more, Sarah felt her chest tighten. The energy crackling between them held promises and dangers. How much longer could they dance in defiance before becoming lost to the tide of Matthew's resentment? Matthew, Sarah began again, her voice softer, but steady. What are you afraid of losing? But before he could answer, the next wave of laughter rolled through the crowd, ringing louder than their collective anxiety. This could change everything or tear them even further apart. And at that moment, she realized the heart of the battle wasn't just about pie, it was about love, understanding, and the courage to break free. But the question lingered, could they truly find a way through? In that charged moment, the laughter faded, and all that hung in the air was uncertainty. Sarah's heart raced, each beat echoing in the silence that enveloped them. Matthew looked uneasy, a mixture of anger and something softer just beneath the surface. His eyes darted from Sarah to Ruth, searching for an answer he couldn't quite articulate. Is this really what you want? He asked, the rasp in his voice almost a whisper, strained and vulnerable. It felt like a small crack in his armor, a glimmer of something desperately yearning to break free. Yes, Sarah said, her voice unwavering. Mom and I want to live again. Not just exist. This is about more than good food or laughter. It's about reclaiming our sense of self. We're done tiptoeing around you. Ruth stepped in, taking her son's hand, which still trembled slightly. Matthew, I need you to see us. We are not the ghosts of your past. We're here, right in front of you. And we're alive. The words hung in the air, resonating deep in the crowd that surrounded them. Several onlookers nodded, visibly moved. Their presence loomed large, adding a sense of urgency that Sarah hadn't anticipated. This wasn't just about her family's drama anymore, it had become a community affair. But Matthew remained conflicted. What if I don't want this? His voice was thick, laden with betrayal and fear. The question cut through the optimistic atmosphere like a knife. Sarah took a breath, searching for the right words. Then let us live without your anger. Choose to support us, or step aside. But we deserve this joy. I deserve to be happy. A flicker of recognition passed across his face. Maybe he was beginning to understand. Maybe he saw the pain he had unwittingly caused all those years. Ruth squeezed his hand tighter, tears brimming in her eyes. This is our chance to heal, Maddie. Please don't let anger close that door. As the crowd continued to cheer, the laughter once again rising like a tidal wave, Sarah felt pure energy crawl across her skin. She longed for Matthew to step into that energy, to feel the warmth of acceptance and the possibility of love. And if I say yes? Matthew finally asked, emotion flaring in his voice. What does that mean for us? For me? For you? It means building bridges, Sarah articulated, her heart swelling. It means laughter without fear and joy without guilt. It means letting the past stay in the past, where it belongs. The gravity of her words settled over them, slowly pulling Matthew out of his turmoil. Slowly, his body relaxed, the tension in his fists gradually releasing. The laughter around them seemed to beckon him, an invitation rather than a threat. Ruth's voice quivered with hope. You don't have to carry it alone. We're family, and it's never too late to start anew. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Sarah felt the crowd holding its breath, as if they were all connected by the fragile yet powerful thread of reconciliation and love. But just then, a loud crash broke through the moment. A nearby booth, overburdened with pies and prizes, tipped over, sending everything sprawling onto the grass. The sudden chaos snapped Matthew back to reality, and for a split second, Sarah was afraid he would retreat into anger once again. But as he looked toward the fallen pies, laughter erupted throughout the crowd once more, startling him out of his thoughts. See? Sarah stepped back, a soft smile playing on her lips, hoping to recapture the magic. That's life. Sometimes things fall apart, and we just need to choose to laugh and put it back together. In that fraction of a second, something shifted in Matthew's gaze, and in the rising laughter, Sarah felt the ever-present tension begin to dissolve. But would he truly embrace this second chance, this fresh opportunity to rebuild? The atmosphere crackled again, but now with curiosity and hope. Would this clumsy pie disaster be the catalyst they needed? How would their family dynamics unfurl from this point on? Questions hung in the air, just as heavy and sweet as a fresh pie cooling on a windowsill, waiting for the next moment to rise. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over the town fair as laughter and joyful chaos filled the air. Sarah stood beside Ruth, surrounded by remnants of whipped cream and pie fillings, heart racing with the weight of the moment. They had braved the storm and survived. But would they truly embrace the change, or would Matthew's lingering shadows pull them back? "Let us clean up this mess," Ruth said, breaking the silence that had settled between them like the night, a flicker of light in her eyes. Sarah glanced at her mother-in-law, a mix of confusion and pride swelling inside her. "You really want to? Right now?" "Yes," Ruth replied, voice strong. "I think it's time we show everyone we're more than just family, we're a team." Sarah practically beamed. That's the spirit. Together then. With a renewed sense of purpose, the two women dove into the task, laughter bubbling up as they recalled fond memories of kitchen disasters and family antics. Each splatter of cream felt like another brick knocked down from the wall that had separated them for so long. Rather than facing the remnants of their past, they chose to navigate toward this new territory of fresh possibility where moments of joy were cracked open, waiting to be explored. As the last of the pies were cleaned away, Sarah turned her attention back to the crowd, her gaze searching for Matthew. He stood a distance away, his arms still crossed, but the fire in his expression seemed to flicker, just slightly. In that moment, she realized something. They had all been trapped in the past but not anymore. "Matthew, come help us," Sarah called, the urgency in her tone alive with hope. He hesitated, eyes darting between Sarah, Ruth, and the vibrant fair filled with dirt and laughter. But then, as if something had shifted in the air, he slowly made his way over, confusion still etched on his face. "Look, it's just pie, nothing to worry about," Ruth said, her tone inviting and warm. "I can't just waltz in here with everything," Matthew replied bitterly, but there was a tremor in his voice, a crack forming in his steely facade. "What if we hold a little contest of our own?" Sarah suggested, injecting excitement into her words. "Let us see who can clean up the mess the fastest. Winner gets the last piece of pie." Ruth's laughter mixed with Sarah's, brightening Matthew's demeanor. He tilted his head, letting a smirk slip through. "You think I'll lose?" "No way. You'll win, I promise." Ruth teased back, her smile radiant enough to rival the sunset. And just like that, the serious lines in Matthew's face softened. An internal battle seemed to take place as he weighed his options. "Lily and I will team up," Sarah announced, nudging her daughter closer. "That's 2 against 1. Matthew's laughter erupted, unexpected and beautiful. "Fine. Let us see who cleans the fastest." With that, the game was on. They cleaned, raced, and laughed, each moment peeling away layers of hurt and resentment. As they fought the mess together, Sarah felt a shift, not only in Matthew but in herself and Ruth. They were fighting together, not against each other. Finally, they put the last of the debris away, and before they could step back, Lily squealed with joy, laughing as she declared, "Grandma, we did it." Ruth's vibrant energy was intoxicating. It filled her like a radiant light. "Yes. We really did." Ruth turned to look at Matthew, vulnerability shining in her eyes. "You see, it doesn't have to be darkness anymore." Matthew nodded slowly, the tension in his shoulders easing. Maybe I was wrong." Sarah felt her heart swell, relief flooding through her. This was the moment they waited for, the moment where connection could thrive, built on laughter rather than retribution, and amid the flickering lights and cheerful music, with the echoes of laughter ringing strong, Sarah, Ruth, and Matthew found themselves united in a newfound bond. They stood together, the barriers that had once separated them reduced to mere whispers of the past, a shared smile reflecting promising tomorrows ahead. Television screens were filled with bright colors, echoing the ambience of the fair. As they walked away from the scene, Sarah felt lighter than air. As night fell, she knew that together they could face whatever the future held. This was the beginning of something so much bigger than a pie-eating contest. It was a culmination of healing and love, a reminder that family is not just about blood but also the connections nurtured through shared experiences. "Let us not let this be a one-time thing," Sarah said, glancing at both Ruth and Matthew. "How about a family game night next week?" With their cheeks still smeared with remnants of their messy fun, they nodded in agreement, hearts swelling with hope and excitement. The fair continued to glow brightly behind them as they walked away, hands joined and burdens lighter. And as Sarah turned back one last time to gaze at the vibrant lights, she whispered softly, "We're home." If you felt this moment of transformation, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second. This is the moment to show your support for more stories like this one. Hit that like button right now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share how it touched your heart. And share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. The more love, the more we shine.